a lovely frock. Yeah.
I love it. Right then. Well, welcome.
I was 46. I was 46. You know, I look gorgeous. Yeah.
Stunning. Well, the gremlins have been at us again. I'm half suspecting a conspiracy. Are the technology secret agents on our case after last week's performance?
Yes, they're after us now. Yes, they know our names now, and they're scared of us.
Well, I've heard a clicking sound when I'm on the phone, and we do know that telephone bugging has been rife in the past on the Isle of Man.
Oh God, that's so old. That's so old school. I mean, I actually met someone who was part of the GPO engineers that set up something called Tinkerbell, which was the first large-scale phone tapping system in the early 70s. And it could tap something like about 200, 250 phone calls simultaneously. I think, what was his name? Not Dominic Campbell, somebody, Duncan Campbell, who was a noted sort of government expose journalist in the 70s and 80s, mentioned this in one of his books. And this guy is telling me that he provided some of the material for his book on that. I think it's called War Plan UK. Yeah.
How many years ago is that? That's certainly.
That is, that I'm not going to tell you how old I am, darling, because
I've got a drawer. I've got a drawer in the mental filing cabinet.
That is as old as as Ghost Town by the Specials.
Oh, that's
or a bit longer than that.
That's Terry Hall, isn't it? And Jerry Dammers, and it's
1981. Well, indeed.
1981.
And we're seeing the riots now.
Yes.
We're seeing the riots now. In Bristol and such. But 40 years ago, when the record came out, Ghost Town. Indeed, I was at university in Warwick, which, strangely enough, is in Coventry.
Yes.
Because they had it. They called it Warwick because it sounded better. But it's 4 miles outside Coventry. But I went for my interview at Warwick, and got out of the train. Got off the train from Euston at Coventry, and then got into the cab, and they went up the road and looked out the right hand side, and there was Horizon Studios, the home of Two Tone, the centre of the cultural universe. At the time, I was going to university, and the place was like going to Motown. Blooming hell, this was marvellous and absolutely spectacular. And then the record Ghost Town came out, and I remember when I heard it for the first time thinking, oh yeah, stuff's going to kick off now. And bang, you then had Brixton riots. Bang, you then had Toxteth riots. Bang, you had Handsworth riots, you had Bristol riots, you had a variety of other smaller riots around the towns. But people saying Priti Patel now on television, making her statement to the Commons, saying, "Oh, these people are dreadful, horrible hooligans and anarchists and subversives and awful lefties who are trying to burn flags and generally be awful." But you look at what happened in 1981, after the Brixton riots, after the Toxteth riots, after the Bristol riots, after the Handsworth riots. Economic regeneration. Inward investment, action against trying to rectify structural prejudice. Things like the Scarman report. Rioting worked. Which is a strange thing to say. Rioting worked. I think there was something that Martin Luther King said about rioting being the last resort of those who aren't heard, or something like that. And I think 40 years, and it's strange. I saw these things 40 years ago. And it's plus ça change, plus la même chose. You see it all again. History repeating itself, first as farce and then as, well, farce. The lessons are, people talk about lessons being learned. The lessons are never learned, again and again and again and again. And it's only because people like you and I, and who are old enough to still remember these things, and then still to talk about them on our various broadcast media, to people who aren't old enough to remember them, to actually tell them, no, this isn't new at all. It's been happening and happening again and again. The thing is, we haven't been able to change it. But the thing is that we have to understand the methods by which we can change it, which then brings me on to something else that I was hearing whilst waiting for the 5 o'clock Howie and Ashy Magic show. And something about the Manx Radio tomorrow will be establishing, going live with a web page for election 2021. And it will be, how can I be a candidate for election 2021, etc. And that absolutely plays into the establishment hands, because the more candidates that they have for a seat, the more likely it is that the establishment candidate can get in, because we have essentially the most rigged election system you can think of. Not only do we have first past the post election system, winner takes all, but we also have a system where we have two candidates, two candidates per constituency, or, 2 seats per constituency on winner takes all. So you could have phenomena like plumping, whereby you don't people only vote for one candidate rather than 2. They're not obliged to vote for 2 candidates. They can just vote for one. And various other shenanigans. So you can make sure that, obviously, the more candidates that you have on the paper, the better, because the establishment candidates will always get in.
So are you thinking about Castletown by any chance? Arbury and Maloo, I think, is the Castletown, Arbury and Maloo, the last election, where I think there was a harvest, really, of granny farming. I think there was more organisation than some of the other candidates, and one particular candidate who absolutely shone. His votes were split, and really, I think we lost out big time on that.
Quite. Sure. I mean, like there was Keith Fitton, I think, in Middle, who had a similar thing, and there was another candidate in Garth who almost pipped Daphne Kane, and then, strangely enough, sort of, as if by magic, 50 votes, was it 38 or 40 votes, suddenly appeared for Daphne Kane. Oh dear, we haven't counted them. Now, there was, of course, the absolutely atrocious situation of Louise Whiteleg in Erin Michael.
Oh, the
where
pizza.
where she lost or retrieved, I think it was 250 votes. which she had 700 votes. She had 700 votes already, and then I think the nearest candidate was Carlos Simmons, who was the establishment's supposed to be second candidate. But somehow Tim Baker managed to, by various strange magics, actually get enough votes to get in. And well, we see what's happening with.
So this was
Tim
really, we're not seeing any malfeasance. This is an accounting error, kind of a water slide measurement management issue.
It's not about malfeasance, and it's not about an accounting error. It's about people knowing how to play the system. And it's about people knowing how to play the system, which it's entirely legitimate in the same way as you can legitimately reduce your tax liability. Same difference. They know how to play. They know how to play the system, and they work it so that they maximise the chance of their candidates being returned. And within the system, if you have more candidates than standing, and people go, "Oh yes, more candidates should stand. Yes, 1,000 flowers should bloom." Well, what happens is that 998 flowers don't bloom because the two flowers blow and the shade of them kills them. And that's how it works, and that's how it is constructed to work. Well, and it's and that's not corrupt, that's not illegal, that's not malfeasance, that's just knowing how to play the game.
I've got a comment here from Kevin, and it's quite a good one, really. We recall an outstanding MHK, a highly memorable one by the name of Horton, and Henderson, his partner, and they would stand together. So that was 2 seats and 2 well-publicised candidates.
Are we talking about the well-known Judas Henderson?
Yes, that's him. The Douglas North candidate. So the two of them fought together.
Judas Henderson, of course. Yes, Judas Henderson, of course. No, it's not. Remind me of his first name. It eludes me for the moment, because Judas is so.
It's Bill. That's it. It's Bill.
Bill. That's it. Yes, Bill Henderson. Who is now a member of the Legislative Council. Lord only knows why. Because he was, of course, with Robert Shaw, part of the dependability scandal. Because
remind us of that.
The dependability scandal. The dependability scandal was when Robert Shaw went into the policy reform post, brought in by Bell, and Henderson was then a departmental member for the Department of Health and Social Security, as then was, and then that transferred to the Treasury, because Social Security Division, people still call the DHS as the DHSS, and it isn't, because all those things are now a division of the Treasury, and they're a division of the Treasury for the reason, because the Treasury doesn't like giving people money. And DHSC would have this idea of being caring and thinking that they should give people money. So that was then established, and then a company called Dependability were brought in to fulfill the kind of functions that Atos had fulfilled in the UK. Finding the sick and the disabled, etc., and finding them fit for work, even though they were in their coffins.
Gotcha.
And strangely enough, within 5 or 6 months, they'd managed to cut the incapacity benefit headcount by half. And David Cretney was very foremost in assisting people with appeals and on that, and I think he had a success rate of something like 70% plus on that. It was just a cynical attempt to just chop the headcount of the most vulnerable in order to save money.
We've got
it was
Kevin. We've got Kevin.
It was disgraceful and disgusting, and still, Robert Shaw and Henderson have not been held to account for it. This was Henderson also, who then, at the time, infamously said, "I can't live on more than £50,000 a year." And this was in, 5 years ago? I think it was 6 years ago. But he expected other people to live on £50 a week.
I've got some supplementary.
Absolutely atrocious.
I've got some supplementary here. This is Kevin, who's got a good knowledge of this. Atos, which Robert Shaw brought in, and then Dependability Limited.
The thing, as I understand it, Robert Shaw didn't, although he tried to bring Atos in, he didn't, and it was Dependability who were as a cut price version of Atos, and really had no bloody clue about what they were doing. They were, which was shown by various other things that they'd done, such as their blue badge work, I think, for Harrow Council.
Yeah. Apparently there was a
Harrow Council
happy...
in the UK, and actually their headquarters were Dependability's headquarters was a bungalow. Registered office was a bungalow in Harrow. They were. They just and this sadly is a story that repeats itself in other aspects of the Isle of Man government, that people just manage to somehow be able to take people for a good lunch and persuade them to do something, and fine, they write the check and they allow them to do things, and they screw it up marvellously.
Well, apparently there's a happy ending of sorts. Our contributor on the screen said, yeah, by the way, all of those who had their benefits cut all eventually got them back after tribunals. It was Eddie Tier was involved as the Treasury Minister.
Eddie Tier, of course, has a history of shall we say issues.
Well,
when we return back to the idea of people talk about. I remember Chris Thomas talking about certain aspects and saying various people, various issues actually quite recently, and say, what is it you want? Do you want retribution? Yes, because there is a hell of a lot of retribution to be had. The Manx people need a Nuremberg moment, to be honest. When we look back at the things that have happened over the past 20 plus years, where can I start? Okay, well, I came back, I returned to the island, 20 years ago. Okay, and there was Mount Murray. Yeah? And Mount Murray then had the inquiry led by QC, and the report said that there were practices pertaining to Alan Bell that were, quotation marks, tantamount to corruption, close quotation marks.
And this is on Alan file, Bell, isn't it? We can come and we can read this, can't we?
Quite. Which is why I'm saying it's quotation marks. It's not me. This is actually in print, in black and white, from an inquiry that was headed by an eminent QC from across, who was given terms of reference to find whatever might be that should be found. So you had that, and then you had the MEA scandal. the MEA loan scandal, and so which eventually only cost us less than £500 million.
That is
rather
the
than
big one, isn't it? That
than
is
£500 million.
the big one.
And indeed, the person who the
careful with names.
person
You don't need to mention any names. Okay.
No, I can mention some names because I'm entitled to well, not should I say entitled, but I am legally I am legally entitled to mention those names. The chairman, the chief executive of the MEA at the time, Richard Profit.
Yeah, the clue's in the name.
the strangely named Richard Profit. The strangely named Richard Profit negotiated a loan for the MEA with Barclays, I think it was, and received a commission for negotiating the loan to the body that he was the chairman of. And I think it was something like a 2% commission. Now that's documented. That's documented. That's not me just making it. That's documented. And you or I would commonly think that was a bit dodgy, innit? But no. Has he been charged? Has he been? No, of course not. And when you talk about these things, some years later, it's oh dear. Yes. Well, it's too far. It's too far in the past. Water's under the bridge. No. We have to move on. Blah 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 blah.
Well, we hear that all the time now, don't we? We hear that.
But that's
regularly.
The thing that you hear, and indeed, that is a standard response that you hear all the time. And we can go on through a litany of incompetence and maladministration from there. No. Let me list the ways. MEA. Yeah.
I need to finish by midnight.
Then go Sefton Group.
Yeah.
Vision 9.
Yeah.
And even before actually the MEA, sale of the steam packet to Macquarie, as I remember rightly. And then a whole variety. Oh gosh, no, sorry, my memory is failing. Well, but the thing is that these things repeat, as I think I've said before, about the systemic failings, the structural problems of the Isle of Man government that produce these systemic failings again and again and again and again.
It's a trend.
And well, it's not even a trend.
It's not fashionable.
But not even fashionable. The thing is, you think the lessons learned would have happened 20 years ago, but no, it just keeps on happening. I mean, like, and another thing that actually has just come back to my mind. A friend of mine who was part of the issues with various surgeons at Noble's Hospital.
Oh, that's a beaut, that one. That's it.
Yeah. I will dig out the photograph of. I took a photograph of him after he returned from Liverpool after having to be casevaced from Noble's Hospital. To be then emergency surgeried in Aintree Hospital because he was having a gallbladder operation keyhole and they screwed it up utterly to the point where he was so ill he then had to be casevaced to Aintree Hospital, and he then had to be J-sectioned. For those who know these things, J section in order to open up and get to things and sort it out. And when the surgeon saw it, he apparently remarked, "Who the bloody hell did this? They shouldn't be on the register." Anyway, eventually, after some years, he then actually received his compensation, acknowledgement of liability, and then compensation, only to die 4 weeks later of a heart attack from the complications of the
Oh, shine a light!
of
That's
the
terrible.
of the wrong that was done to him.
Can we, Bonzo? Can you just hold on a minute, because we kind of stretch it into 25 minutes, and it's great. I'd like to come back to the Mountbury inquiry, the MEA, the rogue doctor, and maybe we could do something in.
We'll do something about that, but I understand, of course, that we've actually strayed, way off piece from what we're supposed to be talking about.
Can I pull you back?
But I would hope, but I would hope that those listening would understand about why we've strayed so much off piece from what we're talking about, because that comes back actually to what we're going to talk about.
And really, where do we start? I mean, we've got quite a bit of ground to cover. We'll quickly jump into the 5 o'clock tea time show, where we had, I've got to say it, HQ and Ashy up their game, because we had King Alfred in the room. Did you not sense that? King
Alfred might. Yeah, but I mean, King Alfred might have been in the room, but and had some slides. Next slide, please. But what did it mean?
We've got a new economic strategy before summer.
No. What did it mean? I mean, there were people who had been told, "Oh, you're doing the right thing. Thank you very much. We'll give you £250." When their businesses lost £25,000 that day. I mean, yeah. That really is a good way to lose votes and lose friends and
you're talking
get
about
people angry, isn't
you're
it?
talking about the famous flip-flop Saturday, aren't you? And the gesture that's been given out. Well,
but of course, one of the things that, or I think the things I've never really heard it said, so here I say it. One of the reasons for the flip-flop Saturday was because asking businesses to do it didn't give government any liability. But also, of course, it didn't any liability to be sued, to be actioned against. And also, of course, that didn't give businesses any cause to claim on insurance. Because any claim on it, no, it's not force majeure, it's not government action. No, people just kind of asked you to do it, so it's your fault. So it was a great way to make things happen without them costing anything.
But the irony is, the deep irony about this was not everyone played the game. And I understand that east in Laxey,
and why should they? And this is the thing I find progressively. I was just going across the road to the co-op in Port St Mary a few hours ago, and social distancing, what the hell's that? Even though the markers are on the floor and such, people are sort of going up and down the aisles, not going on a one way, and then you get to the checkouts and you find people sort of bunching at the checkouts, and you're trying to play chess to keep 2 meters apart or some such, even though they don't seem to know what 2 meters apart is, but I do, because I was taught that many years ago by a very kindly, shouty man with a paste stick, who threatened to do various obscene things with a paste stick unless I kept the particular distance. Uh, so I actually, but also actually that came in. That's come in very useful because I actually know how to march backwards, so to maintain a distance.
I've just pulled.
So that's kind of helpful.
I've just pulled a graphic up on screen. You can't see it, but it's one from Twitter earlier.
Yeah.
Now, what it relates to is the Isle of Man government Twitter site seemed to have almost like Kim Jong-il kind of diatribe of instructions being dished out, which was unusual. The tone has changed, so I'm not quite sure what went on there. But really, it is about, are they blaming the public? Is this where the shift is going? And if anyone is on Twitter and wants to take a look at this, look at the responses. Look at. I've just got one on this. I'll just read it out to you. And I don't know who it is, but it's not someone who features on Twitter a great deal. Just saying, you're blaming the public, and that doesn't sit well. That's why folk are getting narky with you. Several shops have had positive cases. These could have come from them. It could have been a touch of a trolley product, petrol pump. I think you need to stop vilifying the public, because what I'm getting at is that last year we were washing our hands like crazy. We were super careful, but it's almost like people have thought, you know what, I've had enough. I've done my best, but not everyone's playing the game.
It's not. Well, actually, it's not quite that. It is the idea, I think, that it's just like it was before. Whereas, of course, the new variant and the adaptations of the variant are more contagious. Now, that doesn't mean that they're going to kill more people as such, but if it infects more people, it will kill more people. Yeah? The lethality of it isn't increased, but the more people it infects, obviously, the more people it can kill, or damage, or because one of the things as well, it's not so much about how much it kills people. We've seen the effects of long COVID really damage people, but terribly.
We don't even know. We don't even know yet, do we? It's only a year old.
And we don't even know the long-term effects of COVID going out. 2, 3, 5 years. We might have people, like you and me, who are trolling around very happily, and then 3 or 4 years later we'll be wheezing away and wanting oxygen therapy and such. Or our blood may be clotting, and we may be having aneurysms and such like.
Well, that's another subject, isn't it? The old vaccine.
Well, no, but that is another subject as well, because the symptoms of COVID-19 that are publicised by the government are the old, very restrictive symptom list of COVID-19. And we know now that the symptoms and effects of COVID virus are much greater, much more widespread than that little box that they publicise.
They've been challenged about that, haven't they?
Yes, and they've been challenged about that. Yeah. And I was astonished that Henrietta Hewitt, as a director of public health, refused absolutely point blank to accept that there may be other, an expanded dictionary of symptoms for COVID-19. Now, I can speak on this as someone who worked in a regional health authority in the UK. I reviewed a regional health authority in the UK for something called Caldecott compliance, which is patient confidentiality. And also, after reviewing that, I was then asked to come back and review the communicable disease control function for this particular regional health authority, which had a very high incidence of communicable disease control monitoring because of its location and its immigrant ethnic community. And indeed, the person who was the head of that communicable disease control function was the guy who was a guy called Dr. Philip Monk, who was the national head of CJD, mad cow disease, at the time. So yeah, I worked with people who knew about this stuff big time.
Let's just talk about some issues that were raised today. And did you notice where HQ was put on the back foot when it was a journalist from Isle of Man newspapers, new guy?
Oh yes,
new guy,
Hardman.
And he said about data being revealed by June Watterson, Speaker of the House of Keys, before the press conferences. And
now I didn't pick up. Now I didn't because I was listening and unfortunately having to do something else at the time. But I heard that it was someone is leaky in the
it was an interesting
but I didn't hear that it was mentioned that it was June Watterson at the time.
It was about extra information, and all credit to June, because he does furnish his Facebook page with lots of detail and what have you, but it was just this thing you could see. HQ was caught on the back foot there. And then, of course, we had ALF and this new economic strategy that's going to be delivered, which all sounds very exciting, as though we're going to reinvent the wheel.
ALF is yes. I think we were talking about. Gosh, this is I'm having deja vu here, because I think this is where we were talking 20 minutes ago about ALF and his new wonderful economic strategy, which is no such thing. It is, I got some slides, and here I am. Next slides, please. But it's all about, I've done very well by not actually using all the economic borrowing facilities, and now I'm going to tax everybody, well, except rich people, obviously, in order to balance the books.
Well, let's see what comes out now. Just before we come on air,
that's pretty much it in a nutshell, is it not?
You sent me some stuff, and there was some stuff about climate. Okay, and
right, yes,
I've got it up on the screen.
This is the thing because the thing whilst we're talking about all the things that have been generated by the press conference and other issues, other things have been going and are going on, because House Keys meeting tomorrow, and they are going to be considering lots of bills. The machinery of government, because COVID has stopped the various branches considering all the bills that have been put in front of them for this year, and there's an awful lot to catch up with.
Just walk us through these points.
So when you see the order papers, you'll see there are 4 or 5 questions for oral answer and a few for written answer. Not as they were in the previous order papers, where you had 28, 30 questions for oral answer and another 30 38 questions for written answer or whatever. They're quite small order papers because, of course, after Thursday's shenanigans, where the branches were forced to bulldoze a bill through for elections in a day, they don't want to make too much work for themselves, And I can understand that, because this is actually quite hard work. For those people who think that being a member of the House of Keys, looking at helping to pass legislation and stuff, or being a member of LegCo, helping to pass through legislation is about, oh yeah, fine, I'll bimble up to Tynwald for half a day. Yeah, I'll go and have a nice lunch afterwards, and I'll have a natter with people. Whatever, yeah, nice little earner. Rubbish, absolute rubbish. I can tell you, because I have assisted various members of Keys and Tynwald in these things, that essentially the minimum hours of a Keys member or a Tynwald member who is doing their job properly is going to be 60 hours a week. And on occasions it's going to be more than that.
Exactly, yeah.
Not only that, your telephone number is in the book, and it's on the web page. So your constituents, as a Keys member, or people who want to contact you as a LegCo member, they can just phone you up.
Well, why do you think some of them don't engage in social media? It's obvious, isn't it? There's a number of them.
Well, some of them do, and some of them don't, and exactly. I can understand why some of them don't. Because some of them come from, perhaps an older era where they're not used to being able to deal with it. So there are some people who are older, like you and I, who can deal with it, and embrace it. And there are some younger people, younger members who, positively embrace it. But the problem with social media is that it is very hard to control, and that is, and that for the establishment, who sponsor a fair amount of Tynwald a fair amount of members of the Keys, etc. That is something that they don't like. The idea that you can have a member of the House of Keys sitting as you are on the screen in front of me, in front of an open mic, being able to say whatever they want without any control. No, a total nightmare.
Well, tell me about this this sheet that you sent about the climate change bill, isn't it?
Climate change bill. Yes.
Very quickly, because the time is pressing on.
I'll tell you about it very quickly.
We're going to triple time after midnight.
But also, yeah, for sure. I'll tell you about it very quickly, but also to tell you about it very quickly, and the thing about the bit before it, because you look in the Tynwald order papers, and you look in the House Keys order papers, and you look in LegCo papers, and you see the questions, and you see the written questions and stuff, and then you see all this stuff about lay before the court, report, whatever it is, blah blah blah, GD thingy bob, click on the web link, blah. Now, one of the click on the web link blahs bit is actually, for LegCo, the previously confidential briefing notes to LegCo members on the climate change bill.
Okay.
And which you will then put up a section of, which talks about wind farms and wind power. Now, wind farms and wind power have been talked about in Tynwald since the earliest reference I can remember, although people like Peter Carron, I'm sure, will correct me, is 1994. Yeah, 25 years ago, and still We don't have a wind farm. But we can look at those wind farms on a clear day, spinning away.
Lovely.
Yeah, we can look at all. Yeah, we can look at all that. And the thing is, we should have a wind farm because we've actually leased a piece of seabed for a wind farm to sit on. But the reason there isn't a wind farm sitting on that bit of seabed that we've leased to a company is because we are not able to be part of something called contracts for difference, which is the UK energy market for renewables. And I must confess, I will confess an interest here. I and others have been lobbying for participation in this, because otherwise there will not be a wind farm in that place that would be able perhaps to supply us with renewable energy, or for us to have any form of renewable energy, whether it be wind farm or tidal or whatever. It wouldn't be economic for us to do that unless we could then supply our renewable energy into the UK contract for difference.
But don't you think it follows the trend? It follows the trend that you mentioned before. It follows the trend that we just don't seem to do it. We don't seem to pull the cat out of the bag. We consistently screw it.
This thing that's always said about the other man. It's so so agile. It's so flexible. It can make things happen. It's we don't have all this red tape and things. Stuff can we're so innovative.
I'll argue that.
It's absolute rubbish.
I will argue that they filmed Waking Ned in something like 1996.
I can better you. I can better you on that. I can better you on that because I can better you on that because I was extring on a film called Colour. Yes, I was extring, darling. Yes, I was background furniture, sweetie. On a film called Colour Me Kubrick.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I know.
Which was a project of John Malkovich's. Now, there was I was there behind. Yes, indeed, you'll see me. I think in a shot with John Malkovich and Dougray Scott in Celavi, and it was thence tarted up as Jasper's, this kind of gay bar in Brighton. And I was then, I'm in the background having my cigarette lit, which for anyone who's ever done extra work, never, ever, 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 agree to do a scene like that.
Well, I have it in my mind that we've got this film fund, and we'll talk about the film fund and the media fund and the fact that the report still...
You didn't ask me. You didn't ask me why you shouldn't do a scene. You shouldn't do a scene like that.
Well, go on then.
Okay. No. So I'm going to tell you. Right. Because. Okay. It was. Okay, darling. Yeah. Right. Action. And. Okay. Blake next to me lights a cigarette. Okay, take a few drags of the Marlboro Light. So, right, cut. Reset. Another Marlboro Light. Okay, so, and action. Light. So I got through a pack of Marlboro Light in about 20 minutes.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, they have plenty of budget.
It really sent me. So never, ever, ever, ever agree to do a smoking scene on set.
I think everyone everyone who had the chance of being an extra, they had a lot of fun. But I just,
but I haven't. No, I haven't got to the punchline on this one. The thing was that it's not actually funny. The thing is that through the set, John Malkovich was rushing up and down, taking mobile phone calls, and looking a bit fretful. And then at the end of the day, he was then over in the Sefton Hotel, having dinner with various of the Iron Man Film Commission, etc. And they were saying, what's, how was the shoot going? You looked all a bit worried and said, "Oh no, shoot was fine. Yeah, great. Russia. I was seeing the stuff on the, on the video recorder, and I'm sure when it comes out on the rushes, it's going to be great." So why are you so fretful? Oh well, problem is, I've got this other film called The Libertine, and
oh god,
UK are doing UK have just sorted out these tax reforms, and it's flushed me down the toilet. And he was liable for Johnny Depp's fee, which was £2 million, and then various other costs.
Oh,
so he was actually liable for something like about 15-20 million pounds. So, and that was in 2002 money.
Yeah.
So he was, rather.
And if by magic.
Oh no! But if by magic. But it wasn't just if by magic, but it was very beneficial. This was in the days when we did actually do good things, because it was at the dinner. Yeah, okay, all right. Let's we'll go away and talk about some things, and we'll come back to you in the morning. And when they came back to him in the morning, it's okay, right? You film it here with 30% here of the film, and sort out, and you have various legal stuff going through here, which is then a Manx expenditure and stuff, and we can underwrite that, and we can do that today. Which was the sort of what?
Blimey. And that was the biggie on the spreadsheet, wasn't it? The Libertine was a biggie, and I do have this thought. I just have it in my head, and I don't know where it comes from. It is that when Game of Thrones was getting mapped out, was that a message left on the answer machine here? What was it?
This is where again. With the Libertine, no, it wasn't a question of, we'll give you loads of money, because actually we made money back on it.
Okay.
Yeah, because the Cowshed studio, the Laser studio, that became the sort of 18th century Theatre Royal Drury Lane. They made that inside it.
Okay.
Yeah. Johnny Vegas was there playing it. Yeah, it's a very big thing. Yeah.
So Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones wasn't ever going to be here.
But the thing about Game of Thrones is that Game of Thrones and that were financed by EU money, which we of course didn't have access to.
Ah, okay. So that's a myth that the Isle of Man turned it down.
So that's
I like that.
So that's another myth, and another myth as well, which I hopefully can disperse, about me and Orson Welles. Now, me and Orson Welles was going to be the big film that was gonna, was gonna do everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, it had Zac Efron, from High School Musical.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be his first big dramatic film, and also Claire Danes, who'd been with him in High School Musical. They had this huge premiere, red carpet stuff out. I think in the Gaiety, didn't they? I think because actually they used the Gaiety as the set for the New York theatre that Orson Welles was using. Now, one of the reasons why, or the primary reason why this film, which had total star power, which should have sold, you can bet the farm on it. One of the problems was, allegedly, that Steve Christian of Cinema NX had cause to criticize Harvey Weinstein about his behavior.
Oh, you are kidding.
No.
You are kidding. So Harvey Weinstein was here?
No. Harvey Weinstein
in New York. Oh, they're in New York.
In America.
Okay, yeah, okay.
But he had calls to criticize.
Blimey.
That, and of course, such a film was very dependent upon American distribution, which Miramax, Harvey Weinstein controlled, and it was very much, you're not going to have a expletive deleted film in America again.
So the upstanding Manxman, acted in good faith.
So me and Orson Welles didn't show any downwear in America.
Shame on you, Harvey Weinstein. Shame on you.
So when we're talking about it lost £8.5 million, that's one of the reasons why it lost in that way of accounting it.
That
£8.5 million.
a Bonzo exclusive that doesn't feature in any report whenever we're going to see it. But I tell you, it's Harvey Weinstein versus the Manx moral stance. Crikey. Who knows where that could have gone? It's probably a very good film. I've never seen it.
Oh, me and Orson Welles is an excellent film. Yeah. As I say, it was very much the chap who was Orson Welles, the chap who was the friend and MI6 officer in Mr. Nice. If you remember Mr. Nice, the film about what was the name? The Oxford Welsh dope dealing guy. He was played by Risa Fans.
Anyone who's we have actually got a number of viewers, and we thank you for staying up. And please, if you please just comment. We've had some comments in. Oliver is saying, why can't we see Bonzo on the screen? And Kevin says, Bonzo, I love you, but will you take a breath? Well, I tell you what, we've gone back and forth across the Atlantic. We've covered.
You don't want me to. You don't want to hear me take a breath, darling, etc. But Ged can actually put my graphic up because I have an actual sort of Sandy Gall phoning from Afghanistan graphic. Which I've given him, which he actually isn't putting up in the kind of right hand corner of the screen.
I've got the photograph. Absolutely. I've got the photograph of you in some quite alluring outfit. I've got that one.
Damn it! That is the best portrait I'm ever going to have because I look bloody gorgeous.
I'll get the. I know the other one you're talking about.
Put it up on the screen, damn it. Yeah. I still I can't see it on the screen.
You
Where
can't. We haven't got the technology. But hang on, let me.
All right. Well, I'll sort you out with the technology in a bit. But the thing is to remember that there was a friend of mine. She was saying, "Oh God, old bagger 46," and so, hang on, look at my photograph. I was 46 when that photograph was taken, and I was bloody gorgeous. So,
I see. You send me some stuff. Oh, all right. I've got it. Next time. Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
But you look very alluring.
And indeed, there's another story about the photo. Well, I'll just do it because I think I can fit it within a minute. When that photograph was taken, a girl came up to me, young girl, in her early 20s, and said, "I hate you." I'm sorry, etc. "I hate you," and I was like, "Well, I've no idea what I've done, but if I have offended you in any way, oh God, please, I'm so sorry. I hate you. You're old enough to be my father, and you look better than I do in a dress." Which I think I shall have on my gravestone.
Oh, delightful! Let's just. So I'll ditch the climate table. I think we've done that. I think.
Well, yeah. We'll talk about that another time. But I think if there's a sort of wind up note we need to do on this here, it's that government isn't it is not a question of government not telling you the truth. It is that government is telling you its truth. And I think that's something for you all to go to bed with.
I'm absolutely grateful for the exchanges this evening, Bonzo, and thank you so much.
I look forward to seeing some of the stuff as well, because on my screen I can't see it. I can't see all the text stuff and whatever.
Well,
but I'm so happy if you've enjoyed my show, and I love you all, etc.
And there we have it. So thank you so much for tuning in. Please subscribe and comment, and maybe some feedback. Do we want more of the film years with Bonzo, life backstage? I think you've got so many tales to tell, but we were supposed to be covering politics.
I have so many tales to tell backstage, and some that I really, darling.
Let me just throw this one, this written answer question that's been asked tomorrow. It's at number 1. And this is it. It's by Julie Edge, and we'll just cover this one.
Oh, Julie Edge. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So it's number 1. Questions for written answer. Right, and she's saying if the Chief Minister will publish the advice received on Sunday, the 28th of February, which led to the decision that it was safe to open schools on the 1st of March, and who, in the Council of Ministers, voted in favour of this decision. So 30 seconds, just give us what's going to be the written answer.
30 seconds.
What we're going to hear.
Yeah, great question, dream on. But the thing is that there are actually reasons why there shouldn't be answers given to both of those things that she's asking questions to.
You're defending them.
No. I'm telling you this as technical as an old civil servant fan, mate gov, but I will have to then tell you about it next week. So bye.
Right. So there we go. Is John Peel in the room by any chance?
Not exactly. But yes. Strangely, his session seems to have cut out from the Maida Vale studios. So next week he'll be discussing things about the issues of confidentiality, of civil service advice, and also, well, generally not answering questions that people don't want questions answered to, as it were.
And there we have it. That's fantastic, Bonzo. So we'll catch up next week with another pre-planned script.
So good night and good riddance.
Lovely stuff. So there we have it. That's Bonzo off screen, and let's just see what we've got. So right. What do you think of that, folks? That was Bonzo Slater. Interesting guy. Hyper intelligent, photographic memory, and has just seemed to have that talent to trawl up anything, really, from the background of Manx politics. Knows, I think, all the skeet and the scandal, and it's worth looking at those reports that he mentioned, the file about the Mount Murray, the MEA, and so forth. I mean, we've got this media inquiry coming up soon, so it's quite enlightening. It gives you a bit of inspiration just to scratch beneath the surface. But if you are liking this kind of entertainment, if you like this informed, random style broadcast, please, put your comments in the box, or if you'd like to take part, please give us a shout and we can have you on screen. But thank you to the contributors tonight. Thank you to Kevin and Oliver just for chipping in there. And just to let you know, tomorrow night I've got another guest on at 10 o'clock, and I think if you tune in, then we'll try and have a little bit more organisation than what we had this evening. So please catch up again with SkeetNet, and we'll meet up again tomorrow.